Hello, welcome back to the Feel Good Factor. I'm Susmita Veganosaurus, and I'm so glad you could join me today. Today, I have a good friend of mine, a new friend of mine called Annette. Annette is a chef in LA and she teaches EFT, and there is a lot of stuff about her which you'll know as we speak to her. I met Annette in this online group called Rise and Bloom that I'm a part of, where there are different podcasters, bloggers, and all of us are supporting each other. And a few weeks ago, I was on her podcast. So those of you who've been on my Instagram page would have seen links to the interview there. Today, I'm so glad that she's joining me here on my podcast. Hi, cousin.
No, I'm so happy to be here because, my mom was saying, make sure that you do well on my cousin's show. Don't mess up in front of my family.
So can you tell everyone why we call each other cousin?
Okay, I know, because they're going to be like, what? You sound so different. What's happening here? Okay, so growing up, I knew I came from a mixed, diverse background because my father is Dominican and Japanese, and my mother is like French Creole and African American, but she's also Indian as well, and her family is like from Mumbai. And I was kind of like really ashamed of being diverse because in African American culture, people kind of like pick on you, especially when you're a child, when you have like lighter skin and longer hair, which I had. So I would never tell people that I was mixed. They'd be like, oh, what are you mixed with? I'd be like, I'm Black. I'm not mixed with anything. So now being older, it's something I love. Mm-hmm. I love the diversity of myself. And so like, I tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, like you're coming into my territory. And they're just like, you can't be all the things. I'm like, I am all the things. So
that is what makes you so awesome, because you have so many different things all about you from so many different backgrounds. And it's just like, makes you the unique person that you are.
Yes, darling, very different. And I'm okay with it now. I'm 40 now, so it's like I'm embracing all the things. This is a new decade for 2020, but it's also a new decade for me. And so, it's, we're cousins, we're fam. And so my mom's like, do not embarrass me in front of my family.
Oh boy, you are not going to embarrass anyone. You're not capable of it. So there we go. So, Annette, I know there's a lot about you. Can you quickly tell people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll swoop into the main topic that I wanted to discuss with you?
Well, I'm a holistic wellness educator. And so what I specialize in is helping people do holistic health and making really planned out lifestyle medicine plans for themselves. Especially when they've dealt with trauma or stress or, the thing when you go through emotional things, your body keeps score. And that's actually what ended up happening to me is that when you don't deal with those emotional things and you're not activating joy into your life daily, it has an effect. And unfortunately, It shows up in our bodies, not just with the food choices that we make because we seek comfort, unfortunately, from food, but then it can just come into a chronic disease. And it's something, that I love doing because I my background is in education before I transitioned into doing holistic health and wellness. So I'm a teacher at heart, like since I was a little bitty girl. I mean, like little. I played schoolhouse. That was my favorite game to play. I would teach my animals and then I'd run into my play kitchen. So my mom said, we didn't know what you were going to be. And I'm like, the vision was there because I have pictures of me where I literally was teaching my animals and I'd go into my little play kitchen and cook them food. So.
It's great that we are at a time where every one of us can embrace our multi-potentialite selves. So we can be multiple things and it's okay and it's awesome.
Oh yeah. So I'm living my little kindergarten dreams from back in the day. The thing about it is that so many people don't think about lifestyle medicine until they have a crisis. And I was no different. And it's a hard road and a hard process to go through. And I'm really advocating for people now to be in a prevention mode because unfortunately, when they come to me, when I work with clients one-on-one or in my group masterminds, it's because they've already, gotten themselves into like a lot of health debt. and they're trying to take the steps to reverse it. And it's so hard. And the thing about it is that you have to have that determination. You have to have that momentum. You have to have that commitment to show up every day and make some form of progress. But it can be overwhelming, especially when you have like something super, super huge, you know, going on in your body, because you have to have a level of patience.
Yeah.
I just wish people would be more in prevention mode instead of like, you know, trying to repair and recover, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
So what was your personal health journey? What did you go through that made you realize it's a lot of work and then find a purpose in it to help people prevent whatever it is that you went through?
Well, I had childhood health issues my entire life. I went from doctor to doctor growing up all the time. You know, they said I had anemia, which my mom said I had gotten from her because she had it when she was pregnant with me. And so we went to doctors probably from the time that I was like 9 till I was like 14. And they just kept telling, you know, that I was overly stressed, that, you know, I was eating too much processed food, and that was just it. And I just went through life just realizing that I was just always basically going to be sick, and I just kind of accepted it.
Oh.
Yeah. And it just became a thing. It was just, you know, you get to the point where you go to so many doctors and they're telling you there's nothing wrong with you and there's nothing they can do. I mean, I was hospitalized from the time that I was like 10 to 14, like probably 3 or 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
They would just give me iron infusions and then they would send me home. And now knowing the reason why I had those issues is because I had a very rare blood disorder. And that rare blood disorder led me to being diagnosed with terminal stage 4 cancer in my late 20s.
Oh.
Yeah. So going through that process and having such a rare form of a blood cancer, and being the first woman of color that got that type of cancer in the United States and Canada, being in a situation where the conventional options that were available for me were not going to lead to me having life. They were very clear, the doctors that I went to, that like this has progressed so rapidly and it's something that probably was like somewhat dormant, but it's been going on for so long in your body. And now we're here and there's not much we can do for you. They're like, you know, we're sorry, you know that you're young, but in 4 to 6 months, you will no longer be here. When you're in that situation, you have to say, okay, for me, my thing was I wanted to have quality of life. I never was thinking really and truly, Suze, that I was going to survive the process. I just was trying to make sure that I went out on my term, you know, whatever that looked like. You know, I wanted to be able to be in control of my wellness. And that's where my holistic journey started. I started researching. I started watching documentaries. I started emailing and writing doctors, calling doctors, asking for like direction and help and guidance and like where do I go, what do I do. And there was this one chef, you know, chef are the coolest people. We are, you know that, Suze.
We are.
We are the coolest people. And there's this one chef, I don't know if I can say her name, you know, I don't want to, you know, put her out there, but she had a class about how to eat raw and plant-based. And I didn't even know what raw was. I knew it was something that helped your body be alkaline and help restorative and, you know, put, you know, tons of vitamins and minerals and nutrients in your body for healing. So I wrote her and I was just like, okay, I just wanted to download your book, but there was like an era and she was about to have a class. She had started a class, but the class had ended. And so she said, oh, I told her like what I was going through, and she sent me everything. She sent me all her ebooks. She sent me like all her books that she had written for free, mind you.
Oh, so
and
sweet.
I started reading and just reading everything, and I started making changes along that process. After that, I really started reaching out to a lot of holistic health professionals looking for help and coaching and guidance. And I ended up finding my health coach and mentor and friend, Micah. He's here on the West Coast. He says I can say his name now on podcast because he's like, you never say my name. And I'm like, because I don't know what you want me to do. And he was, you know, my bright star that helped me go through this whole process. And I remember going through the journey and thinking like, you know, I'm not going to survive, but I'm going to do things that are going to keep me emotionally sound, keep me strong, and just be hopefully here a little bit longer. And probably about the 9-month mark of going on my journey, because I passed the expiration date of what the doctor said I was supposed to be here. He told me you need to start figuring out how you want to be trained to be a holistic health professional and what programs you want to go to. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, in my mind, I was still like, hello, I'm going to die. I have terminal cancer. Like, what are you talking about? He was like, no, you're going to make it, and you're going to be able to help so many more people than I can. Because he says, you know what it's like to go through this process. You know how hard it is, the difficulties, that you go through when you're healing your body naturally. And I think a lot of times when you watch these documentaries, you see this person like ill, Suze, and you're like, oh my gosh, they can barely walk, or they're going through this. And then they fast forward them, and they show you like, okay, well, look how healthy I am. They don't show you that middle gutter part. They don't show you how painful it is. They don't show that, while your body is recalibrating and getting renourished, that you are feeling it, that you're going through the emotional pains of detoxing. You're going to changing from, eating this processed food. You're going through withdrawals, getting off sugar, getting off tea, getting off these chemicals. Your body is mad. I mean, literally, it is mad. It's what I say, it's like an eviction. If you have a family member or friend that comes and visit and they're saying they're going to come for like 2 days, but then they stay like for like 2 months, and you get to the point, you're like, you got to get out of my house. You've got to go. You're not paying bills. You're eating all the food. You're staying late up at night. You're keeping things dirty. That's literally what it's like when you're trying to heal your body from a chronic illness, whether it's terminal or how long that you've had it. It's an eviction. You're literally trying to throw all that stuff out into the street and saying, get out. And it's not one of those easy things. You really have to fight to get through that process. And how that manifested for me, there was days that I was in terrible pain. I lost my eyesight for several months in one of my eyes. My teeth started falling out. My hair was falling out. I couldn't sleep. I cried. I went through emotional outbursts in the sense of, this is the crazy stuff, but it's the truth. So I want people to know the real deal. I literally, Suze, my mom came home from work one day and I was at the top of her steps throwing all the dishes down to the ceramic floor. So she walks in and I'm throwing glasses and cups and plates. And she's like, what's going on? And, Micah's like, well, this is a part of the healing process. And she's just having an emotional outburst. And my mom was like, okay, with all the plates in the kitchen?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So you go through all those peaks and valleys. And of course, now it's years later and I'm still healthy and strong and I'm in remission.
I'm so glad for that. I'm so glad. It's just wonderful. I have listened to your podcast. I have also taken a course from you on, the EFT thing. And you are amazing. And your love to help people heal, that just shows through completely in everything that you do. So I'm so glad you found Micah and you went through this process and reversed your disease completely, and you're in remission and going strong and going far. So what are the different practices that you had to follow during this process of healing?
It was very disciplined when it came to food. I mean, there was a certain amount of juices I had to have it per day. There was certain foods that I had to eliminate, of course, being plant-based, getting away from dairy, getting away from meat, getting away from anything that processed. I was extremely raw, so I wasn't having any food that was cooked.
Okay.
In addition to that, some of the food aspects was, Micah had me going out in the sun. Like, every day I had to be out in the sun. He was like, it's important that you're getting enough vitamin D. That's something that we have here, even in the United States is a big issue, is that because we spend so many times being inside in the buildings, watching TV, vitamin D deficiency is a big thing. And one thing I learned after I started pursuing holistic training is that the majority of the people that have cancer, all of them have some form of vitamin D deficiency. And when I realized that, I was like, that is insane, because we're always inside buildings. And one of the simplest things that you can do is just make sure that you're getting 15 minutes of sun every day. So even with me being in pain, he made me go outside. Thankfully, I had a dog at the time. So I would go outside and walk her twice a day. And then like twice a week, I'd have to go out in the sun for like, an hour, which was like crazy to me. I'm like, don't you know how much pain I'm in? Because, there was the detoxing process. I went from walking normal to having a walker, having a cane, and then being in a wheelchair. So even in those parts where while I was in agony, being in a wheelchair, he still made me walk. He was like, I don't care. You can walk from your house to the mailbox. Like, you have to do something. And my mom was really diligent about enforcing that stuff in. And the emotional aspect is a lot, because you're you're not just killing a disease, but you're dying to that old lifestyle.
Mm.
So there's a lot of mental things. Like for me, I was always a cook. I grew up cooking, but I was like a big person that ate tons of cake and drank tons of caffeine just to get through each day. So not just doing, dancing was a big thing. I had like a theme song every day, Chris Carr, friend in my head,
Oh yeah, she's amazing. Yeah.
Right.
She's a great guru for cancer. Like when you're curing and healing yourself, she's so inspiring for that.
Oh yeah, I read all her books. I watched her documentary, and I would get up in the morning and I would dance it out to my theme song of the day. I still do that. I danced it out before we did this interview.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have a theme song every day that you should focus on to activate joy and to do that. And what I want to say is that on this process, EFT is a tapping meditation, which some people may not know about. But for me, the biggest thing I learned in this process, because my mom was using EFT, I wasn't really into EFT. I thought it was weird. I was not feeling it. What people don't realize is that a lot of times is when you have a chronic disease, there's an emotional connection for that.
Yeah.
And so when you're on this journey of holistic wellness, you focus so much on the food. You focus on like making sure that you're getting enough sleep. You focus on getting exercise. The one tier that a lot of people forget about is emotional healing. And for me, and for most people, the body keeps score. And when you have emotional things that you have not worked on, traumas, whether they're baby traumas, we call those little T traumas, or they're big T traumas, where they're big, big life-changing traumas. Even if you move on, grow up, whatever, but you haven't really confronted them and done that deep, deep work, it's going to come up and manifest in your body in some form. It's going to manifest with high blood pressure. It will manifest with hormonal imbalances, which is really common for females. It will come in the form of having high cholesterol. You'll have thyroid issues. Or it can manifest in the form of cancer like it did for me. Don't just think about, I'm going to be so focused on my nutrition. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to exercise. What are you doing emotionally and mentally to clean up all that stuff in your brain? Because if you're not cleaning it up, it's going to show up, and it shows up in the ugliest form. And that's how it happened to me.
So you started practicing EFT, and that helped clean up a lot of the stuff from within. And for everyone who's listening, please look up EFT. It's called Emotional Freedom Technique, or also known as tapping. And it's a very, very freeing, healing experience to do these EFT practices and meditations. There are lots of videos out there, and of course you can connect with Annette. I'm going to share all her links at the end, and maybe even do one of her classes or a session with her. And believe me when I say the 1 hour session with Annette was really, really good. She inspired me, and I was practicing after that for a very long time too, continuously. Annette, apart from EFT, what other happiness or joyful practices did you have to keep yourself mentally more free and in an uplifted position?
Well, this is the thing, Suze. I was not really focused on activating joy on my cancer journey. The journey took me 22 months from diagnosis to being cancer-free. And what I realized is probably 2 years after I had been into remission, I really had to work more diligently towards, doing affirmations and really figuring out what joy actually meant to me and what that looked like and what did I want my life to look like, especially when you're a holistic healer and educator. You're pouring out so much into people. You have to really be restorative to yourself. And so I really was like, oh my gosh, I got healed, but I didn't really do the work of going backwards and looking at the stuff that, caused me emotional pain. And so I started journaling more. I, went to therapy, associating with people and finding things that made me happy. And it's one of those things is that your default setting is sadness. Whether we are optimistic people or not, our minds just go towards the negative. And so every single day, just like you brush your teeth, just like you take a bath, just like you have your breakfast and your lunch and your dinner, you have to be doing things that are going to bring joy into your life. And that means changing the stuff that you're watching. First thing is on TV.
Yes. I do not watch the news.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, it's the worst thing. And I listen to podcasts that give me the news education, but they're like no more than 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I did this challenge with my clients that are in my Strive Over Stress mastermind right now, and I gave them the challenge of no 30 days, nothing, watching anything that had violence in it. And I have to tell you, it was shocking. The messages I was getting from people, because they're like, I can't survive without watching violence. And I'm like, you don't.
What?
Yes! People were losing
I
their.
can't survive without watching violence. What is that even?
And it was like, it wasn't one person, Suze. It was several people. But this is the thing. In comparison to the people who've been disciplined that are doing it and the ones that are not, the ones that are, they're easily doing their affirmation homework. They're sleeping so much better. They're more calm. They're more relaxed. And you don't realize how the stuff that you're seeing and listening to, you know, watching violent video games, watching these TV shows, how they're affecting you mentally. So pushing yourself away from that. I mean, and now we have it's so accessible. You can be anywhere watching any type of show, and it's the most popular genre in the world, but it's just activating trauma. It's activating stress. It's causing adrenal fatigue. The second thing that is really important is stretching. Doing some type of stretching in the morning, you know, to, you know, start off your day, to really get, you know, those juices flowing, and doing it before you go to bed so that you're really calm and you're relaxed. And when I do stretching, I always make sure that I'm using essential oils that activate joy. There's actually oils that make you feel happy.
Oh yeah, some of the oils, they're magical. Essential oils are just so powerful and magical. And I totally agree with you. In the past, about maybe 4-5 years ago is when I discovered them. A friend of mine makes these blends and it changed my life, you know. So what essential oils are you using particularly? Is it like lavender and stuff before bed?
Well, I mean, they're right here on the side of my nightstand, so I can tell you everything that's here.
Yeah, tell me.
So before I go to bed, I do a mix of cypress with lavender and chamomile. And I put that on the bottom of my feet. I put that on the back of my neck, and then also on my wrist. And then I make a blend of a few drops, and I put it in my hand and do cupping aromatherapy, where you breathe in and out for like 5 seconds so that you can get that into your system. When I wake up in the morning, I make a diffuser blend of orange essential oil and rosemary essential oil, because the orange makes you have an uplifted mood. But rosemary also helps you think and focus. And that's important as an entrepreneur, to be able to have your mind and all that stuff, those juices flowing, you know, for positivity. And then I change throughout the day. I have like geranium and patchouli, you know, and I have like essential oil room sprays. And so it's like a whole party going on, like either in my room or in my office. It's like, we don't know, you know, my family says, we know what time of day it is based on the essential oil scent, you know. So like, okay, you have rose essential oil, so you're probably going to work out, or you just came from the gym and you don't want to be smelling smelly, or it's orange and cedarwood, so you're about to do some serious work with some clients, or, you know, you have peppermint, so you're trying to keep your energy up and make your stomach is calm. And we go to a pharmaceutical base, you know, we don't really go to naturalness in the United States. We kind of, you know, like, oh, I have a problem and I'm going to use a pill, or I'm going to take this, or it smells weird, I'm going to take these chemicals and use that. But essential oils are like the best non-toxic way to help you with joy, and then just push away, you know, all those things. There's so many things. I have like literally, I work with a lot of podcasters and entrepreneurs, and there's like conferences all over, and they'll literally be texting me like, I'm feeling this, or I'm feeling that. I have my oils. Which one? Tell me now. What do I need to use?
Yeah. And in fact, these oils, it's not just these, what do you say, emotional, physical reliefs or differences it makes. They also are very magical. So the friend of mine who does the oils, he actually charges them with energy and blends them according to their magical property. And you can attract, you know, things like abundance. You can create peace at home. There's so many things you can do. Like when you said rose essential oil, rose is one of the most powerful oils for attracting abundance. So notice, Annette, once you started using, you know, going to the gym and using rose, did you also start attracting more abundance?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because like, you know, with this whole, you know, Veggies Are Bae magazine, I had a a vision, really a plan of what it was going to be, because I've never done like a really big freebie. I don't really give out tons of recipes. I give some out on my I give them out on my podcast, but I don't give like content. Like I don't give a tangible thing for people to hold, which a lot of people want it. But I'm like, that's what a big part of my business is, creating recipes for, doctors, their patients, and my clients. So I always felt like, okay, if I give that away for free, then people may not pay for it. You know what I mean? So when I created the digital magazine for the first issue for Heart Health Month, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put a whole bunch of recipes that are important for this, da 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 da. And the response was like, womp, womp, womp. And I was like so deflated, because I was like, nobody was trying to take the little health exam. Your question was like the easiest question I put on the test, which was like, what was the hack that Chef Suze gave us for salt? Like everybody got that answer, because everybody remembered your answer in the episode. But a lot of people weren't turning the exam in. And I was just like, why would you not do this? I've created all this amazing content. I've put all these articles from different people, recipes. It's like such a fabulous free resource. And then it flipped, because now all these other businesses and connections I have wanted the printed version of it. And I never planned on printing it, too. It's like I'm like, okay, I'm not even selling it to my audience or the public. You can't download it. But like, commercial entities that want it for their locations and for their patients and their clients, they're getting it. And I'm like, I did not plan that. So I guess it was the rose oil and my EFT affirmations that made that happen. Because I'm like, I'm serious. It was not the plan. So you never know. So get you some oils now, y'all.
It sounds like you were meant to be selling it, because see, it was pretty easy for someone to take the quiz, that exam that you had, and get this beautiful free resource. But people weren't doing it because you were meant to be making money out of this, girl. So that is why,
I guess so, cousin, because I'm telling you, and it's been a lot of work, but it's funny because I was telling my mom, I said, it's so weird. And she said, what? I said, you remember when I was little, I used to make you buy me all those magazines, when I was a teen and all that stuff, because I have a very extroverted personality in the public, but I'm very introverted. So I was reading and looking at magazines. I was just like, I would just go into that world. And I said, one day I'm going to have my own magazine. And my mom was like, what is it going to be about? And I was like, I don't know. And I used to put like stuff up on my wall, like, 15, 16-year-old kid. And I said, here it is. I'm now 40 and I have my own magazine.
Annette, thank you so much for sharing your story about healing yourself naturally after the doctors gave you no hope. And it's wonderful that instead of 4 months down the line, you are here so many years down the line, more than a decade, and doing great, going strong, and using your experience to help others. So that is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm so happy to chat with you, and I think, let's do another episode again soon, maybe more in depth about EFT or essential oils. Let's see what comes up, and let's do another interview soon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We got to talk about EFT. We want people to be tapping all the time.
All the time, yeah. So, Annette, tell everybody how they can find you, how they can connect with you.
Okay, well, on Instagram, my one Instagram page is called That Veggie Girl, but it's spelled GURL. I know people are probably saying that's incorrect English, but no, people call me girl. And so you can find me there. And also I have a podcast. It's called Let's Veg About It Podcast. You can search for that anywhere where you search podcasts. And that show is all about how to cook holistically, what vegetables you should be using to help you be preventative when it comes to wellness, and also nourishing your body so that you can have restorative food into your system. And I'm going to give a special offer to everyone. So for all of Chef Sue's listeners that are interested, I'm going to offer you access to audio modules for free.
Wow.
Okay, so this is a limited time offer. So once this episode airs, you have 14 days to reach out to me to get into that. I'm actually going to give the link to Suze today so that she can log in and start listening to the
I'm looking forward to listening to this.
Yeah, so they give you a lot of education about how to go forward and, when it comes to tapping, and it's some good stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. And just to mention this to all the listeners, you hear this, full of life, awesome, like kick-ass voice of Annette here when she's in podcaster mode. But the moment she gets into teacher and EFT meditation and tapping mode, her voice becomes soft and soothing, and you just want to keep listening to it. I love that, the different personalities of Annette that come out, and I love them both. And I hope you all take advantage of this, and please click on the link and go and listen, connect with Annette, and get your hands on this module that she's talking about. I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Well, thank you so much for having me, cousin. I hope one day you're stateside and we're doing a video of us cooking together, because that's going to be the real show. That's going to be the show.
It's going to be you cooking, me eating, but well. Your Brussels sprouts tacos that you spoke about, that's the first thing I'm going to get you to make for me whenever we meet. And yes, of course, if you're in India, come down to my restaurant. I'll get all my minions to cook for you.
Well, my nephew is already planning to come and cook and work with you. He's like, that's my goal. I was like, you're only a little. He is so committed. It's a chef that a friend of mine, he loves in Vegas, and he's going to be with her in the spring. And then he's like, next it's going to be Chef Suze. I'm going to come with my cousin. I'm like, oh my Lord.
How old is he and what's his name?
He is 11 years old and his name is David. So he just turned 11. So he is like super into being, in that holistic space. But he wants to learn like different cultures. He says what I do is like boring. And he's like, I want to go into other flavors. And my other friend is Egyptian. So he's like, I just have to do the other things. I don't want to do what you do.
David, the moment you turn old enough to travel on your own, 16, 18, 20, whatever it is, come visit me in India. And yes, you can work with me and let's cook together.
He is going to lose it when he hears that.
It's been great chatting with you, Annette, as always. I'm looking forward to all your links, sharing it with everyone. And to everyone who's listening, you can connect with Annette on her Instagram or email ID, whatever it is that I share. And of course, I would always be happy and would love to listen to your feedback about this podcast episode or generally my podcast. So write into me at Veganosaurus on Instagram, and I look forward to talking to you. Okay, so bye, Annette.
Bye, cousin.
Bye, cousin. If you've been enjoying the Feel Good Factor, please rate, review, or subscribe on your preferred podcast listening app. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Feel Good Factor. I'm Susmita Veganosaurus, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again very soon. Bye!